These past two patches have been completely insane, and as a result, the meta has been flip-flopping all over the place. As always, you know we got you guys covered, as we'll be breaking down the best solo carries, 3 for each role in patch 13.21. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video, or click the link in the description below. Let's start off up in the top lane, and one champion making a push back to the top of the meta for 13.21 is Fiora. Fiora has been a really solid solo carry for a while now, but she's become top 3 worthy as a result of the recent indirect changes. Fiora is a complete menace on 3 items, and with Riot slowing the game down in 13.20, introducing all the anti-snowball changes, it's been extremely positive for Fiora. With the recent nerfs to Conqueror in 13.20, definitely look to try out Grasp on the champion if you're not using it already. Grasp is now heavily outperforming Conqueror analytically, and it helps Fiora a ton in lane when she's going for those quick vital procs with Q. Fiora Q procs Grasp, so you get better value out of the rune than most champions. For the complete rune page, it's looking like Grasp with Demolish, Second Wind, and Unflinching, followed by Mana Flow and Scorch for secondaries. Fiora's meta matchups right now are quite favorable. However, Malphite is one champion you may want to consider banning, as his attack speed slow and ability to stack armor can be more difficult to snowball against. The build to run on Fiora is a Divine Sunderer or Trinity Force Rush into Ravenous Hydra 2nd and Spear of Shojin 3rd. If you're interested in learning more about Fiora, our challenger top laner Strumpus has a brand new full game commentary for the champion on our website. Another newcomer in the top 3 for top lane in 13.21 is going to be Nasus. Nasus has been on the rise for very similar reasons to Fiora, as he's a champion who thrives the most in the mid to late game. More durability for the early game is great for Nasus, as it allows him to more easily farm up those Q stacks and become that late game god. Champs who can exert early game pressure should be highest priority bans for Nasus, so Darius is a good choice right now. To get the most out of Nasus, it's vital that you do not tunnel too hard on getting stacks with Q for the first couple of levels. Often just farming with E when you have to and preserving health is going to be your best course of action early on. Once you get level 6 is where stacking becomes much easier, and especially on Divine Sunderer completion. If you greed for Q stacks early and end up having to drop waves, it can be really detrimental in your ability to come online for that mid-game spike. The standard core build for Nasus is a Divine Sunderer Rush into Frozen Heart 2nd and Spirit Visage 3rd. Keystone Rune is Fleet Footwork with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand. Best secondaries are Second Wind and Unflinching. Holding on to a top lane solo carry slot for yet another patch is Malphite. Malphite continues to thrive after the anti-snowball update, as it's even more difficult for the enemy to abuse his weaker first few levels. The fact that games are lasting longer now plays into Malphite's hands extremely well, as longer games leads to more team fighting, which is where Malphite is at his best. There's really just one champion you need to worry about banning if you intend on picking Malphite, and it's Sylas. The fact you can't stack armor, your attack speed slow is useless, and Sylas with a Malphite ult is extremely dangerous are the main reasons to why the matchup is terrible for him. Although Malphite is a fairly easy champion, where a lot of players mess up early on in lane with him is by spamming out Q off cooldown and subsequently running low on mana way too fast. Get in the habit of only using Malphite Q when your mana flow band proc is up. Other than that, you shouldn't be spamming Q during the first few levels, as you need the mana from Sheen and mana flow to come in, and then you can be more aggressive with it. The core build for Malphite is an Iceborne Gauntlet Rush into Sunfire Aegis 2nd and a situational tank item 3rd. Grasp will be the best keystone rune in melee matchups, while Comet is going to work best against ranged top laners or against melee champs you're less confident that you can trade against early. One of the best AD junglers that you can play right now and a phenomenal solo carry for 13.21 is Graves. Graves has had so many changes go in his favor over the past patch. Ghost Blade was buffed, which is the item most Graves players rush every game. Riot increasing the armor ratio for pet DPS actually benefits Graves, since he gains armor from using his E, and now that Riot is giving back the AD ratio to pet DPS, it's going to make his clear even more insane. The game slowing down a bit due to the anti-snowball changes have been nice for Graves, since he scales extremely well with items. One adaptation we're seeing a lot of high elo Graves players make is starting the game off without a potion. This actually became increasingly popular in 13.20, and it's likely going to catch on even more for 13.21. You just don't need the added health from the potion, as you stay healthy enough with Graves. It's not just the no potion start though that has been popping up, as a Doran's Blade pickup is also new in meta. What a bunch of high elo Graves players are doing is clearing 3 camps, basing for Doran's, and then finishing their clear on the opposite side of the map. This way, after you're clear, you have that Doran's and can begin begin exerting a ton of pressure. One of the better bans to use when playing Graves right now is Rammus, as his armor stacking is really annoying to play against if games drag out past 20 minutes. The core build is a Ghostblade Rush into the Collector second, while third item is very situational, as you can go Black Cleaver, Maw, or Lord Doms depending on the game. For runes, it's Fleet Footwork with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace, followed by Magical Footwear and Futures Market for secondaries. Tank junglers have made a push back into meta in a big way, and one of the best right now is Zac. Zac was already quite good prior to the 13.20 jungle changes, but with Riot increasing the armor ratio on pet DPS, it has propelled him to another level. Zac, being a champion with a ton of teamfight potential, does not mind the slower state of the game either, as 5v5s are where he can really thrive. One important thing you need to know before picking up Zac is that Lucidity boots are higher priority than steel caps or mercs. Pretty much all Zac mains run Lucidity boots, but they're only purchased by 50% of all Zac players. The stats back up the claim as well, with Lucidity boots winning 54% of the time, while steel caps and mercs are at 50%. One matchup that a lot of Zac players are having issues with right now is Lilia, as her percent health stacking build and mobility are hard for Zac to play into, so she's a good ban. Build for Zac is a Sunfire Aegis Rush into Radiant Virtue second, and it's situational from then on out. Aftershock is the best keystone rune with Font of Life, Conditioning, and Revitalize. Grab Free Boots and Cosmic Insight for secondaries. With Riot bringing back the AD ratio to pet DPS for this patch, it's only going to make Nocturne even more devastating. Noc has been hanging around as a top tier pick for many patches now, but 13.21 should be absolutely insane for him. Clear will now be faster, which means you're going to hit that level 6 spike earlier on, and even just hitting the spike 5 seconds earlier can be a difference maker for a semi-global spell like Nocturne R. Prioritizing your ban on a support champion with strong peel power is a great choice when playing a dive champ like Nocturne, so Rakan and Lulu are two good options who are picked a lot in meta. With Nocturne, it's all about forcing on numbers advantages. You have the ability to instantly start a fight, which means you need to be laser focused on where the enemy team is on the map. You're not going to be most successful on Noc by taking straight up 5v5s. You need to force outnumbered fights to get the most out of him, so really pay attention to that in the mid to late game. The build you'll want to run on Nocturne is a Stridebreaker Rush into Spear of Shojin second and Black Cleaver third. Run Lethal Tempo for the Keystone rune with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Eyeball Collection and Ultimate Hunter are for secondaries. A champion who has drastically shot up in power as of recent and cracking the top 3 for mid lane is Kassadin. Cass is dominating the solo queue meta right now, as more durability on starting items and less snowball power in the game is amazing for a scaling monster like Kassadin. If you start with Adoran's Shield, take Fleet Footwork for the Keystone rune and run Second Wind as well. It's the holy trinity of surviving in lane and works extremely well on Cass. It's really just AD matchups that are of most pain for Kassadin, but keep in mind that Seekers was just recently buffed, so rushing the item into AD mids is actually much more viable now. Yone is the most played AD mid right now, so he's a good ban to consider. Standard build for Kassadin looks like a Rod of Ages or Crown Rush into Archangel's second and Zanya's third. If you're playing into a comp with a lot of melee burst champs, then going Crown works great, but into more rangey comps, Rod of Ages will suit you better. Rune Page can be swapped around depending on the matchup, as Electrocute worked great into more easy melee lanes like Echo or Katarina, while Fleet is the cookie cutter page you really can't go wrong with. Without question, the best physical damage mid laner that you can play for 13.21 is Naafiri. The long-range catch power makes the champion so devastating for solo queue. You're at your best on Naafiri when you're able to find those isolated catch plays on enemy squishies. In the mid to late game, lurking around in the fog of war and waiting for someone to move up too far to go catch a wave is a great win condition for the champ. You really want to be picking off enemies before fights even start, as it is more difficult to succeed with Naafiri if you get into a straight up 5v5. These more slippery mid lane champs are who Naafiri has the most difficult time dealing with, so banning out Fizz or Zed is good value. Build for Naafiri is an Eclipse Rush into Black Cleaver second and Cyrilda's Grudge third. First Strike is the best keystone rune in melee lanes, but Comet has actually been seeing really good success as of recent and is a great alternative when you are in ranged matchups or just want more poke power in lane. Rounding out the top 3 for mid lane is going to be Sylas. Sylas is a champion who comes online super hard once he has his W fully maxed out, so more health on starting items to let him scale into that spike easier has been great. This more bursty style of Sylas is proving to be very powerful right now for solo queue. Night Harvester as your rush item, followed by Electrocute for the Keystone rune, provides the champion with legitimate one-shot power. The spike you really want to be playing around is that level 9 with Night Harvester completed. Skirmish power of Sylas goes through the roof here, and if the enemy team has a good teamfight ultimate that you can steal, you should be trying to force the issue. Worst matchup for Sylas right now is Vex, as her kit hard counters Sylas, so she is a great ban. For an in-depth look on how to play Sylas, we have a dedicated course for the champion on our website for you guys. Back in the top 3 for ADC and a great carry due to recent buffs is Jinx. Riot will be toning down the strength of Jinx passive a bit in 13.21, but we don't expect the changes to reduce her power much at all. The fact that Jinx passive now stacks means she's one of the best, if not the best, mid to late game teamfight ADC. The recent anti-snowball patch plays into Jinx's favor, as being able to reach 2 or 3 items is a bit easier now. Not only is Jinx's teamfight much better due to the passive change, but her ability to thrive during invade plays is also crazy now. If your team has some strong CC at level 1, then look to ping out an invade play, as Jinx's ability to stack her passive makes her an incredible champ in a level 1 5v5 skirmish. Your ban when playing Jinx is going to be best allocated towards a heavy dive champion, so Zac or Jarvan are 2 good options that are strong in meta. Build for Jinx will vary based on the enemy composition. Into more bruiser or tanks, look to rush Kraken Slayer, while against squishier comps, Stormrazor rush is best. Infinity Edge is the best second pickup for every game, while Rapid Fire Cannon works great third. Lethal Tempo is the keystone rune, with Presence of Mind, Bloodline, and Cutdown. Best secondaries are Absolute Focus and Gathering Storm. Another ADC who has been loving the slower pace of the game so that she can scale into her monstrous late game is Vayne. It's not just the fact that the game is slower that's making Vayne so great right now either, as more tanks in meta indirectly increases her value as well. Rammus has seen a huge spike in play, Zac is being picked a lot more, Nasa's priority is on the rise, which is great news for Vayne players. Even with tanks coming back into meta, it does still look like Q max is the way to go on Vayne, especially if you're playing the optimal Trinity Force build. Almost all Challenger Vayne players are going Q max, but in the lower ranks, W max is the most popular. If you are someone who has been exclusively maxing W in all games, then look to give Q a try, as it's winning way more than W max. It's all about surviving lane and scaling with Vayne, so using your ban on a strong poke support like Karma or Zyra is a good idea. A build that is also becoming way more popular in the higher ranks is a Stormrazor rush in place of Static Shiv. Stormrazor is analytically outperforming everything else as Vayne's first purchase, and it's been a very sleeper item ever since its buffs. The best rune page for Vayne is Lethal Tempo, with Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Optimal secondaries are Conditioning and Overgrowth. If you guys want some easy elo from the bot lane right now, drop the ego and just start spamming Ziggs. The buffs last patch have been huge for Ziggs, and if your number 1 goal is to climb as fast as possible, he should be in your champion pool. 1100 gold is what you want to be playing for early on in lane. That lost chapter buy is such a big early spike, and since you run teleport, being able to base and come right back to lane will net you an advantage in every single game. It's such a simple yet effective win condition to play towards, because the enemy ADC will be forced into a losing situation no matter what. The enemy will either have to stay in lane with their Doran's item, which gives you a huge edge up, or they'll have to base, giving you free tower damage, turret plates, and a CS lead. One matchup that you want to avoid and a good ban when playing Ziggs is Vayne, as her mobility and luxury of being able to build a Wit's End does not bode super well for Ziggs. The core build to run on Ziggs is Liandry's Rush into Shadowflame second, and Zanya's or Rabadon's third. The rune page is Comet with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch, followed by free boots and biscuits for secondaries. A champion who has benefited massively from the recent shift in meta and our first solo carry support is Senna. Senna literally has infinite scaling built into her kit, so a slower paced game and less snowballing is amazing for her. For a support with one of the lowest base healths in the game, the added health to starting items is a more than welcome buff as well. There's one more adjustment that has gone in Senna's favor, and it was the recent buff to Ghostblade. Instead of running Eclipse as your mythic, look to pick up Ghostblade. Umbral Glaive Rush into Ghostblade second and Fire Cannon third is a great 3-item core. Due to Senna being a very squishy champion, she's quite vulnerable into hook champs, and Blitz is a good ban when playing her. Something you should get in the habit of doing on Senna is never leveling up an ability until you actually need to. If you get invaded, or if your team is looking to invade, having W at level 1 can be way more valuable than Q. The rune page to run on Senna is Fleet Footwork with Presence of Mind, Alacrity, and Cutdown, Roll with Biscuits, and Approach Velocity for secondaries. A support champion on the rise due to the anti-snowball changes and making top 3 for 13.21 is Soraka. Soraka scales insanely well with items as Moonstone, Redemption, and Warmogs are all massive spikes for her. Get to that Warmogs completion and the teamfight power of Soraka becomes absolutely nuts, so longer games are leading to much more success for the champ. Soraka struggles the most into hard engage, so banning out Rakan or Jarvan is good value. Something that a lot of high elo Soraka players do that helps to give you more pressure in lane is going 3 points into Q and then proceeding to max W. This will give you that added poke power throughout lane, and then when lane is over, you begin maxing W for a stronger heal in teamfights. The rune page for Soraka is Airy with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. Bone Plating and Revitalize are the way to go for secondaries. With more of these squishy scaling supports supports coming into meta like Senna and Soraka, it gives even more priority to the likes of Blitzcrank. With that said, Morgana being recently buffed and seeing more play is one negative for Blitz and a good ban for the champ right now. Moby Boots and Everfrost completion is where your pick power becomes completely godly with Blitz. The active from Everfrost has so many great use cases, as you can use it as an opener to then close the gap and knock the enemy up with E, or you can use it after you've landed a hook to chain CC and keep the enemy in place for your team to finish off the kill. The complete core build is an Everfrost Rush into Zeke 2nd and Knight's Vow 3rd. Run Glacial Augment with Hex Flash, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight for primary runes. The best secondaries are Bone Plating and Unflinching. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent Challenger players into ELO Hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So there you have it, guys, the best solo carries for every single role in patch 13.21. Thanks for watching, good luck in solo queue, and we'll see you in the next one.